Recovered alcoholic. My name is Pat Rogan. And thanks to the 12 Steps of Alcoholics Anonymous outlined in this big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, which is the program of AA, I have recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. I can't even express to you how grateful I am for this program and for this fellowship. It didn't just save my life, but it gave me a new life. And it just keeps getting better, man. That's just... But I put on this watch tonight, and I remembered where I got it, and the guy that gave it to me, without a drink or a drug in his system, put a gun in his mouth and shot himself. Without a drink or a drug in his system. 90 days sober. This Saturday we'll be having a memorial for one of my ex-sponsees who picked up some fentanyl 2 weeks ago. So this is serious shit. This is, and we're in a part of the program where we're laying the foundation to this whole program, for what we've studied so far in the book. And who knows who the unfortunates are? Who knows? I mean, come on. I mean, have you been paying any attention? I mean, who are the unfortunates here? I mean, we hear it at every meeting. We hear it at every meeting. This goes to show you who's been on their phone and who's paying attention, right? We just read it. Right? There you go. Constitutionally incapable of being honest with themselves. With themselves. And that's what's been required for these. We're in step 4 still, on week 6, but we're getting there. That's what's been required to this point, honesty. You know? And everything, Arthur and I were talking earlier, because we do a step workshop over here before the meeting. You know, Ray O'Keefe used to always say, and I remember hearing his talks, that everything leads back to 1. It's not a step 2 problem. It's not a step 3 problem. It's not I don't want to do 4. It's not I don't want to do 5. It's not I'm not going to make amends. It's none of that. It's step 1. I don't believe I'm powerless. Or I did, but I don't think so now. Right? I mean, that's how we come in, right? I'll do anything. I mean, I've been walking them into detox. I've been walking them into Fort Lauderdale Hospital. I'll do anything. And then when they get in there and you get them to start doing the paperwork, I think I overreacted. Right?
I could attest.
But we come in here on what we disrespectfully call a pink cloud. It's really a spiritual window that we get. It's a moment when we realize I can't live like this anymore and I'll do anything, or you wouldn't have showed up here. I mean, some of you are court ordered, but aside from that, you know, or mandatory from your halfway, I get it, you know. Aside from that, I wouldn't have come here unless I had no other choice. There was nothing when I was in high school or any part of my life that said, when I grow up, I want to go to AA and become a speaker at the 12-step house. You know? Nowhere in my thoughts. And I'm talking drunk out of my mind. Right? Drunk out of my mind, that never even occurred to me. In jail, that never occurred to me. When they took my son, it didn't occur to me. It only occurred to me when it didn't work anymore. And I'm talking about this guy that gave me this watch. He couldn't live sober. We were talking about it at the meeting before. I can't do sober. Alcohol was a wholesale miracle in my life. A damn miracle. I was 16 years old, suicidal from age, as long as I can remember, from 5 to 16, where I did not want to be on this planet. And I did anything to take the way I felt away. I was an adrenaline junkie. Whatever will change the way I feel, I will do it. And there was no drugs involved at that point. but I was suicidal at a very young age. I don't do sober well. Alcohol was a miracle. Halfway through that bottle of Boone's Farm Strawberry Hill, a transformation took place that was just unbelievable. And I know a lot of you guys know what I'm talking about. You know that feeling that, yeah, I'm right now. And that I would still be doing it if it still worked. But it stopped working, and that's why I'm here, and that's why I even endeavored into this process. But it takes honesty. You know, humility. I mean, we talk about humility in step 7, which we'll talk about a little bit. There's humility required behind every step. In my definition, which I love, comes out of the 12 and 12. I think it's on 56, somewhere in there. A clear recognition of exactly who and what I am. Who I really am. Step 1 takes some humility, right? Just to get up and pick up that white chip and say, I am an alcoholic and I am powerless. I can't stay stopped. And once I start, I can't control it. There's no human power on this planet that's going to keep me sober. Requirement number 1. And requirement number 2 is to make a decision to seek that power that could restore me to sanity. Means the conditions have to be met. There's certain things I have to do, and honesty is required. Self-honesty. Honesty with me and another human being. But first, it's with me. I find out that I'm blocked from this power greater than myself. For lack of a better term, God, whatever you think that is, that's what I'm talking about. That maybe, just maybe, this God of my misunderstanding can save my life. Just maybe. Why would I think? Because I don't have another choice. I don't know. I don't have another way out. I don't know what else to do. And maybe, just maybe, you're right. What do I got to lose? We were laughing earlier. Die an alcoholic death or accept spiritual help. Only an alcoholic would have to ponder that. Only we would have to get back to somebody on that. Go on to the bitter end, blocking out our intolerable situation, or accept spiritual help. Hold on, let me get back to you. It doesn't even require belief, right? It doesn't require belief. It just requires, okay, maybe. Maybe this will work. That's all. Take that leap because your life depends on it. That's why I did it, because my life depended on it. Was it me? That's self-centeredness right there, isn't it? It's never going to go away. We'll talk about that when we get to 6 and 7. What'd I say? Sorry. Well, I'll forget about all of you tonight, and then I'm home. I'll go and wonder what I did to that. So I made a decision. I'm going to take a risk here. I'm just going to hope that this God that you're talking about, this God of my misunderstanding, is going to save my life. What do I got to do? Well, we got to remove the things that are blocking us. And last week we talked about getting honest on a 4th step, getting honest with ourselves. It's a requirement. The ones that don't get it are the unfortunates. At least be honest with yourself. Look in the mirror and be honest with yourself. Am I really selfish and self-centered and driven by fear and self-delusion and self-pity and putting myself in conflict with everybody else and them retaliating and then me blaming them? Is that me? Is it true? Yes, it's true. Okay. I got my 4th step. I shared with you guys last week about my 4th step, and immediately the transformation started taking place as soon as I went from my head down the arm to the paper, and I started looking at my responsibility in all those situations. And there was one that I couldn't take responsibility for, and that was my father. One out of my whole list that I couldn't see where I did something to set that ball rolling. Now, I could say, well, they took it too far. Okay. I set the ball rolling. And when I seen the truth in that, my attitude started changing. I shared with you guys last week where I gave up the house. Seeing the truth. You are selfish, Pat. You are self-centered. You're going to kick your children out of their house. You're going to kick your ex-wife out of that house and you're going to take it? And I surrendered. I remember, and this is the way the book says, we start looking at life from a different angle, right? Where there was anger and resentment, now becomes love and patience and tolerance and some understanding. Looking at life from a different angle. I wonder what's going on in their life. I wonder what I could do to help. We start looking at it from a different angle. And this is in step 4. This isn't in 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. This is in step 4. The transformation's already beginning. If you're honest with yourself. But that's the requirement. Can I really see what I did? We talk about taking their inventory, or taking our inventory. We took theirs in step 4. Those first 3 columns were their inventory. It wasn't until we got to 4 and 5 where we looked at ourselves. I always like to tell the story. My wife and I, and it's just the change that takes place. My wife and I were at Bonefish Max in Margate. And this waitress goes by and just throws the menus on the table and keeps on walking, right? I mean, they slid across the table, hit the salt and pepper shaker. I'm like, Jesus, what the hell is going on with this? Now, the previous Pat gets right up and goes to the manager, right? And then writes a bad review after we leave and hopefully get our meal for free. She came back, and I looked at her. And I said, are you okay? And she said, what? I said, are you okay? And she said, it's been one of those days. I said, sit down. And she sat down with us. It was me and Shannon for about 10 minutes. And shared, just dumped. Right? Got up and left, and it was the best service I've ever had from a waitress. The best service, just looking at it from a different angle, right? That's a transformation. That's a change in ideas, attitudes, and emotions, right? That's a whole different deal. Same with the fear, right? And if I look at that fear column, that responsibility column, you know what I could put in every single one of those? I don't trust God. I don't trust anybody. I need to be in control. Why? Because I'm afraid of the intangibles. I'm afraid that what the past is going to repeat itself. I'm going to lose what I got. Or I'm not going to get what I want in the future. All imagined for the most part. The legitimate ones, what's it tell us? Same thing, we pray. God, give me the courage to walk through this. Courage is not the absence of fear, it's the ability to walk through it. I suffer from it constantly. It is my demon. It is my demon. Call it what you want. Anxiety, fear, torment. Label it whatever you want. It is my thorn. It is what brings me to God. Right? Without it, I don't come to God. Without it, I got this. I almost see it as a gift today. It took me many years to figure that out. But I almost see it as a gift. Without what we suffer from, would we go to God? No. Most of us would not. So it becomes our vehicle to this power. My reliance on this power. I mean, don't have to promote religion or anything, but if you ever get a chance, go to Bishop Robert Barron and listen to his sermon on the thorn in the flesh, and see the people who suffered from what we suffer from, and our solution was booze. Some of theirs was too. We're talking guys like Winston Churchill. We're talking like guys Abraham Lincoln. We're talking about guys like Moses. We're talking about Paul. We're talking about Mother Teresa. Right? We're talking about big shots. Had the same issues. The only difference was their solution wasn't alcohol or drugs. Some of them were. Winston, maybe. Old Sue Winnie. So the transformation is taking place. Charlie Pomeroy used to always say that we have this storehouse up here, and it's filled with resentment and anger and fear and guilt, remorse, and shame, and there's no room for God There's no room for God. There's no room for God to enter our hearts, which is where we're going to find God. Deep down within every one of us is the fundamental idea of God. That's what we're trying to do, is remove the things that are blocking us from that sunlight of the Spirit. And I think we all know that, right? We talked about that. With that guilty conscience, that I know right from wrong. I know what I'm doing is wrong. We know that. The put the cart back thing, We know we should. The voice says you should. But we don't. Yeah. We know right from wrong. And now what we've done is we've found a way out of the resentment and the anger through prayer and forgiveness. Right? We've found love, tolerance, patience, understanding. We found a way out of the fear through prayer. And now 2/3 of our mind is open to the sunlight, and that transformation starts to take place. God starts to enter our heart. And we start looking at things differently. If you're honest. If you're honest. And if you can look in the mirror and stop playing the blame game. Sex is the next inventory they asked us to take. Whole different question. Whole different. It was the first two inventories was who hurt us. Now it's who did we hurt. That's a whole different conversation. And nobody's judging anybody's sex behavior or preference or how anybody identifies. Nobody cares here. They shouldn't care here. Maybe they do, but they shouldn't. That's not why we're here. We're not here to judge anybody's sex conduct. We're not here to talk about sex specifically. We're here to talk about sex relationships. That's what we're here to talk about. I tell my guys, forget about the sex. Let's talk about in pursuit of sex, in pursuit of relationships. Who did I hurt? That's the question. Who did I hurt in pursuit of it? Doesn't necessarily mean you slept with them, but in pursuit of them, you could have hurt them. Who did you hurt? And it's a tricky thing, right? Especially for somebody like that grew up in my generation. I hate to date me, but they grew up in the '60s where you should be enjoying it. You should do it anytime, anywhere, with anyone, any position. If you're not having fun, you're doing something wrong, But I grew up as a child being told that if it wasn't in marriage, it's sinful. There's only one position. Right? There's only one person. Right? It was for reproduction only. Right? I don't know who followed those rules, but I know I wasn't planned. So there was conflict right there for me, right? I want to be on the fun side of the island. So I don't want to be on this sinful side. And isn't that kind of where the conscious separation takes place? Kind of in those areas, right? Like where this is rules and regulations and difficult. And this looks like a lot of fun over here. So how about I just deny that? How about I just look at that like Santa Claus? Like they made that up to just keep me in line in Catholic school, right? Which is what I did. I consciously made a decision to separate myself completely from religion. The problem is God still exists inside. So my behavior creates this guilt and this remorse and this shame from hurting other people. Mostly in pursuit of relationships. Mostly in pursuit of relationships. Not always, but mostly. Because there was one thing on my mind from age 13 on. Everything else was in preparation for that. Right? The car, the job, all that was in preparation for sex. And the questions are, who did I hurt? What did I do? It asks me, what instinct am I trying to satisfy? And I know I was tempted to check the sex instinct, but if I was really honest with myself, if I could get honest with myself, it was more about the social instinct and the security instinct than it was about the sex instinct. I really just wanted the guys to think I was having sex with you. Right? I was afraid to have sex with you because if I didn't measure up or if I failed, I'd have to kill myself. And if that gets around, oh my God, So for me, it was really more about the social instinct, what everybody thought. How did I make them feel? That's the next question. How did I make them feel? And then we always get down to the core defects of character. Was I selfish, self-centered, dishonest, inconsiderate? Is this fear-based? Why am I pursuing this? And when I say I don't have to have sex with somebody to hurt somebody, I can be flirting here in this meeting, and I have a wife at home. That's wrong. That's hurting someone. I could be provoking somebody knowing that that's never going to happen. Just because I want to satisfy my social instinct, I want to satisfy my security instinct, I want to boost my ego. And I've caught myself doing it. They're tough instincts to reel in. Especially the sex is a powerful instinct. It's a powerful force. It's a driving force. I don't know if you guys, when young guys like me, I was just, and let me tell you something. When it came up to principles or pleasure, Pat did not pick principles. Right? If it came up, and that happened in all three areas, if that came up to principles or money, he took the money. Principles or attention, acceptance, I'll take the acceptance. And that is what's driving the spiritual malady that Bill is talking about. This internal condition, this anxiety, this fear, this guilt, remorse, this shame. And guess what? I don't have the luxury of medicating anymore. Right? I could get absolution through the bottle before. I can't do that anymore. I can't do that anymore. It's a shame because I have blown up beautiful relationships, completely destroyed beautiful relationships for one brief moment. It was brief, moment of pleasure. That's sad. That's sad when I look back. As somebody that should have been my wife, that for a moment of pleasure, I weighed pleasure and principles. I didn't even consider the harm. And then when they leave, I'm suicidal. I can't believe it. Can't believe they would harm me like that. Can't believe one little mistake. What a double standard. I had double standards. It's okay for me, but not you. They give us a prayer for resentment and a prayer for fear. They give us 3 prayers for sex. 3 prayers for sex. And they're awesome because I have my guys. I talk to them all the time. I want to know if you're prepared to get into a relationship. We ask God to move our ideals and help us live up to them. What's it say right before that? We subjected each relationship to this test. Is it selfish or not? Each relationship that we're about to get into, is this selfish or not? Is this fear-based because I'm afraid to be alone anymore? I'm afraid I'm going to be alone forever, so I'm going to settle. Is this fear-based? Hey, let me tell you something. I was in a marriage for many years because it was better than being alone. It wasn't great. Might not even have been good. But I mistook love for the fear of being alone. So ask me, which character defects is this any of these character defects involved in me getting into this relationship? Am I being inconsiderate? Is this selfish, fear-based, dishonest? Am I being dishonest? By leading her or him on? Am I doing this because I need the money? I need a place to stay? Why am I doing this? Right? We ask ourselves these questions. That if we want to eliminate the guilt, the remorse, and the shame that's blocking me from the sunlight, do I still want to live with that? Another prayer. We ask in meditation, in prayer, we ask God. By the way, when it says we asked in the big book, it means we prayed. There's no other way to ask God for something than to pray. right? We ask God what we should do in each specific matter. The right answer will come if we want it. We know that to be true, right? There we go. The God within. The God within. We know right from wrong. We can lie to ourselves. We can medicate to get through it. We can justify something, but deep down within every one of us, we know what the truth is and we know what the real motive is right there. Yeah, I kind of like her, but I do need the money. You know? I mean, there's an upside there. Upside there. But I do need a place to stay. Why am I doing this? Another prayer. I don't know how Bill got the sex inventory on page 69. That always baffles me. Maybe that's why he moved the doctor's opinion. The third prayer. We earnestly pray for the right idea or for guidance in each questionable situation, for sanity and for the strength to do the right thing. We don't have a choice anymore, man. How long can we continue to go down that road, putting ourselves in conflict with other people and not drink over it? I don't know what the limit is there. I don't know what it is. I don't want to live with that anymore. I've gotten to a point in my life, I don't want to live with guilt anymore. I don't want to live with shame anymore. If sex is really troublesome, this is a good suggestion, we throw ourselves harder into helping others, right? Get out of yourself. It's a driving force. How do I get out of that obsession, which is what it is? It's a drug, right? It's a dopamine dump. More so than attention and money. It takes us out of ourselves. It quiets that horny condition. When to yield would mean heartache. That's what he's talking about. When it's consuming, we have another option. Let's connect with somebody in the fellowship. Let's talk to them about it. Let's call our sponsor. Let's go help a sponsee. That takes us out of the imperious urge, Bill calls it. Okay? To me, this is like, this particular area of my life was the most troublesome. Because there was fear involved in not being in a relationship and fear involved in being in a relationship. There was a lot of fear there. And it was consuming. The last inventory that they're asking us to do, it's not in the book. What I'm asking my guys to do. And because it says that we have a list of people that we have hurt by our conduct and we're willing to straighten out the past if we can. And it's saying that we have a list of everybody that we've harmed. So we need to make I have them make another list because of harms other than relational. B&E, shoplifting, hit and runs. Student loans, taxes, just unpaid debts, that kind of stuff. It's the clouds that'll be hanging over us if we don't take care of them. And it's not something that has to be done overnight. It's not something that has to right away. That's whenever we get into step 8, we're talking about a willingness. We need to be willing. It may take years. I don't know if I share with you guys, I know we're not in 9 right now, but I don't think I share with you guys that my very first girlfriend, my very first everything, who I thought we were going to be married, who I introduced to many jail cells at 16 years old, right? And many car accidents and all sorts of alcohol and other substances. At 16, I was 18 at the time. And I stepped outside of that relationship and blew it up. And I just recently was able to make an amends for that. I had no idea where she went. No idea, but I was willing. I had her on my list, And she showed up on social media. And it's funny because I got with my wife first, and I asked my wife, is it okay if I contact her? Would you mind if I contact her just to make an amends? Because that's what we do, And she said, sure, yeah, go ahead. And so I contacted her, and I made amends, told about the jails and the car accident. I mean, I totaled her father's car, and she found out a lot of what not to do, and after I went through this whole litany of making amends to her, she says to me, well, she says, we were just kids being kids. And I said, that went on another 20 years for me. So now what do we do? Now here's where the fear set in for me. I was not afraid of 4, and I think a lot of people are like me. They weren't afraid of 4, they were afraid of 5. Yeah. Right? I have to tell somebody this. We all look ahead. We're all looking ahead. Am I going to have to call the IRS? I used to. We were reading the doctor's opinion. I said to Brian, "Well, I have to call the IRS." He said, "Pat, we're on step 1. Settle down. What I didn't know is that by the time I got to 9, I would want to call the IRS. You follow me? I didn't know that transformation was going to take place. I didn't know that willingness was going to take place. I didn't know that I would want to make amends to you because I wanted more of this power. I wanted more of that. So I'm starting to get some relief. And I think what happens, we start to lose track of what we're really trying to do here. And it says right here, we've been trying to get a new attitude and a new relationship with our Creator and discover the obstacles in our path. We admit to certain defects, and we have ascertained in a rough way what the trouble is. But now we need to share it. We need to get free. That's the whole goal here, is this relationship with this power that's going to solve our problem, because we're not going to be able to do anything about it. And if you're like me, that's obvious. And if it's not obvious, then you may not do the work. You may not. If you still think there's a chance that you can stay stopped without doing this, my hat's off to you. I wish I was you. That's not true. And there was a time where I wish I was you. Now I wouldn't give this up for anything. I don't know when that changed either. If they came up with a pill right now that would allow me to drink normally, I would not take it. I would not take it. I love this life. I love this. I love getting to have this relationship with you guys. I mean, this is just incredible what I get here. This room in particular is powerful. You're not going to find this everywhere. I'm going to tell you. This is a powerful room right here. This is people who would normally not mix. And we are bound together shoulder to shoulder here, man. We are just amazing. I wouldn't give this up for any. God bless you. I know that wasn't my fault. So the book warns us, if we don't do this 5th step, we're probably going to drink. We're probably going to drink. We can't stop anywhere here. One step is building on the next, and that step is building on the next, and one next one. It's not about, I got to get this one before I move on. That's not how this works. Each step builds on the next step. Confession frees the confessor. Just like forgiveness frees the forgiver. That's where we find freedom. In the confessing it. But that takes humility. Whew. That takes guts. That takes guts. And I didn't want to do it. I don't trust you. There's maybe a few in my inner circle that I trust. There's a couple of them in this room. But for the most part, I don't trust anybody. Why would I? I didn't trust my parents. The 2 people I should have been able to trust unconditionally. Because everybody lies. Everybody cheats. Everybody runs. And I sat at Denny's with you guys every night talking about everybody in the meeting, taking their inventory, gossiping, which, by the way, kills people here. I was guilty when I first came in. If you're doing it, stop it. The rule is, if they're not there, don't talk about it. Wait till they're there. That's my rule. If they're not there, we stop. Nope. Let's wait till they're here, then we'll talk about it. taking the speaker's inventory. He was so full of shit tonight. What'd that have to do with that step? What step was that anyway? I was there. That stuff stopped me from trusting you. Because if you're talking about them, criticizing that speaker, what are you talking about when I'm not here? You talking about me? Because I am the center of the universe. I'm sure you're taking my inventory. Today I don't necessarily care, but I should say I do care a little bit. Hey, I'm not perfect by any means. I'm still suffering just like everybody else in this room. Yeah. I just have a great solution. And it doesn't have a drink or a drug involved in it. That's the cool thing. And I got it here. I got it here in this step. So I'm wavering, man. I as much as I owed Brian my life, I just couldn't do it, man. You know, he was way younger than me. He was just, I don't think he'll understand. I was making excuses, you know? And my home group was called the Boca Boys Club, which was an bunch of old men in Deerfield. I don't know where they got the name. But we were talking about it earlier, they were the guys that weren't afraid to hurt my feelings to save my life. You know what I'm saying? They would risk the friendship to tell me the truth. Those were the guys that were just trying to get Pat to follow one simple freaking rule. And they weren't afraid to hurt my feelings to get me to do it. That's the AA that I love. And that's the AA that I'm part of. Pat, why are you walking around with holes in your jeans? They're my work jeans. Yeah, but don't come to a meeting looking like a slob. Eh? What the hell's wrong with you guys? You know? Pat, can't you make it to a meeting on time, for God's sake? Well, I work. Oh, Jesus. You can't make it. What's wrong with you, man? What's the difference? What's the difference? Pat, I want you to be here 15 minutes early next week. Why? They're just trying to see if I'm willing to follow a simple freaking rule. Right? If you're in halfway, that's why they want you to make your bed. Can you follow one simple freaking rule and make your bed? Why? I'm going to sleep in it later. Right? Just accomplish one thing today. Make your bed. That's bullshit. You know? Why should I have to do that? So here's a great story, right? I love this story, right? I asked if I could I start, by the way, buying better jeans, you know, because I don't want to hear their shit every time I walk into the meeting. So right now, as soon as they start to get a hole, I order a new pair, right? That's the thing. They taught me this, right? So I asked if I could chair the meeting. They said, yeah, you can chair the meeting. Just remember, you have to wear a collar when you chair the meeting. Yeah. So I come up the next week. I come straight from work. I got my T-shirt on from work. And I start passing out how it works and the promises. And they go, Pat, you can't chair. I said, why? He said, you don't have a collar on. I said, what is the difference whether I have a collar on or not to chair this meeting? And he said, the difference is you can't chair. And I was pissed. Gave him the finger. I walked out of there. You guys, just such bullshit. Came back next week with a collar on. Chaired the meeting, and I will never be at a podium without a collar on. I can follow that simple rule. I can follow it. And it was about respect to them. Have some respect for the meeting. Have some respect for the sacred place that you're walking into. And if I'm in a convention or something, I got a suit on, you know? If I'm at a big event. Just show some respect. But for them, it was about, can you follow one rule? Can you just follow one rule? And they're on me about this fifth step. When are you going to do your fifth step, Pat? Why do you do your fifth step? What's wrong, Brian? Why can't you do it? I'll do it with you. You know. So I figure I'll shut them up. And because the book gives us some suggestions, right? They don't mention sponsor here, but that's the person you do it with, right? The 12 and 12 talks about sponsor all through it, right? They refer to a sponsor here twice in chapter 2 when we're approached with the man, the answer, when approaching the newcomer, they talk about a guy who's approaching the newcomer. They just don't use the word sponsor. But when you get to 13 years later, when he writes the 12 and 12, and before that, it was all about sponsorship. That's who you did your fifth step with. That's probably the right person. But it gives us some other suggestion. Priest, rabbi, minister, psychologist, psychiatrist, right? So I'm thinking priest by law. I think they can't say, I don't know if it's a law, but it's a code. They have a code, right? That I was brought up as a priest can't share anything that's in confession. I figured, well, you know what? Maybe I'll do it with a priest. So I call St. Andrew's Church in Coral Springs at 11 o'clock at night. Because I figured nobody will pick up the phone and I'll tell these goofballs that I tried, nobody answered, you know. And Father Quinn picked up the phone. And St. Andrews, and I go, oh, I'm an alcoholic. Oh, you want to do a fifth step, you know. I didn't know, but the Coral Springs group had been meeting there for years, right? And be in my office tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock. And I'm in his office at 9 o'clock the next morning. And I spent 2.5 hours with Father Quinn, and my life forever changed. Forever changed. And I don't know what, it was confession, freeze, the confessor. You know, I left that office, I think it's Eckhart Tolle talks about walking into a room for the 100th time and seeing it for the first time. I walked out of that office into the world, into that courtyard that I had been many times, and saw the world for the first time. And I mean that. I mean flowers, hedges, palm trees, right? I'm going to work going, there's green everywhere. You know, I was going home that night. There's this gorgeous sunset. I can't wait to get to the toll booth to show the lady, you know. And I get to the toll booth on the Sawgrass and I go, look at that. She said, what? I said, look at that. She goes, it's a sunrise, a sunset. It's there every night. I had been driving it for 12 years and never saw it. Right? A whole new world came into view. I had been looking at asphalt and bumpers my whole life. Anybody else walking with their head down, staring at the ground, I didn't acknowledge anybody beside me, anybody around me. You could have been in the car next to me begging for help, and I would have never noticed. I would have never noticed because I was looking at that light, because when that light goes yellow, this one's going to go green, and I got places to go. And for the first time, I saw the world. God entered my heart that day. Faith. I had faith for the first time in my life. You know what faith equals? Results. Results. That's what this formula is. Just be willing to believe. Make a decision. Take some action, and you will get results. Will equal faith. I became a believer in the God of my misunderstanding that day. I had no real understanding of it, but I believed that there was a power in this universe that just solved my problem. Because I had the obsession to drink. I've never had the obsession to drink since that day. Now, I'm not telling you that I haven't thought about it. I stubbed my toe, I think Vicodin, you know, to this day. But I know that Vicodin blows up my life, so I get that. It's not an obsession anymore. The obsession was lifted. I know the truth. One drink blows up my life, and one affair blows up my life, and one lie could blow up my life. One porn site could blow up my life. There's a lot of instinctual drives that I'm prey to that could blow up my life in a heartbeat and lead to that drink. And then lead to that drink, because how else am I going to handle that after I blow up my life? The great fact is this and nothing less, that we've had deep and effective spiritual experiences that have revolutionized our whole attitude and outlook on life, right? That's the solution this program has to offer. The central fact of our life today is that God has entered my heart and lives in a way which is indeed miraculous. Commencing to do for me what I couldn't do for myself, and that was stay stopped. I could not stay stopped. And God did that for me. Whatever you think that is. The universe, energy, spirit of the universe, creative intelligence, whatever you want to label it. But if you do this work, you will get those. This is the whole foundation of this program right now. These first 5 have laid this foundation. They're going to ask me after I do this 5th step to go home and make sure I was thorough. Did I do the best I could? Did I leave anything out purposely? what did it say? Did I mix mortar without sand, right? That's right out of the bigger book, right? Is my house built on rock or is it built on sand? What is my foundation built on? Right? Mine was built on rock. No. Thank you very much. Just to be clear. Thanks for letting me be here tonight.